All right, I want to start by having you close your eyes. Now picture a bear in your mind. What does a bear look like? You got it? All right, open your eyes. Does your bear look like this? A big old grizzly bear? Or does your bear look like this? A majestic polar bear? Maybe your bear looks like this. A cute panda bear? No? Well, maybe you were picturing something like this. A cuddly teddy bear. The bear each of you pictured in your mind may be similar, but it probably wasn't exactly the same. Scientists run into the same problem. How can scientists be sure they are talking about the same type of bear when they are having a discussion? The scientific name of this polar bear is Ursus maritimus. Biologists developed a classification system because of the enormous abundance of living organisms that exist now and in the past. Presently, 1.5 million species have been named by biologists, with another 2 to 100 million species that have yet to be discovered. To better understand the diversity of life, scientists try to group organisms together in a way that makes sense. This is the goal of classification. Classification provides a uniform way for scientists to identify and label organisms so that when they communicate with each other, they understand each other. When a Canadian scientist discusses Ursus maritimus with an American scientist, both know they are talking about a polar bear. Taxonomy is a method of classification. It helps scientists create a universally accepted name. The taxonomy of life is based on the Latin language. For example, this leopard's Latin name or scientific name is Panthera pardus. Scientists use Latin because it's a dead language, which means no one uses that language anymore. That means there won't be changes to the language, which makes it perfect to use for taxonomy. Our modern classification system is pretty old. It was developed by this handsome Swede, Carolus Linnaeus, in the 1700s. Linnaeus used a two-word taxonomy, otherwise known as binomial nomenclature. When using binomial nomenclature, the first word represents the organism's genus. The second word represents the species of the organism. For example, humans belong to the genus Homo and species Sapien. Hence, we are known as Homo sapiens. The genus of a wolf is Canis, while the species is Lupus. So a wolf is Canis lupus. The scientific name of a species is almost always italicized, but sometimes you may see it underlined instead. The genus and species are the most specific taxonomic categories in Linnaeus' system of classification. His system contains 7 categories. The most general or inclusive category is kingdom. Then the categories increase in specificity, moving from phylum to class to order to family, and then to genus and species. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Or, King Philip came over for good soup. Or maybe, keep pond clean, or Froggy gets sick. Those are a few mnemonic devices I remember from my time as a biology student. You may want to come up with your own mnemonic device for remembering the order of these taxonomic categories. Like I mentioned, kingdom is the most general classification. A kingdom includes the greatest number of organisms. As you move down the classification system, the categories become more and more specific. Therefore, the number of organisms in each level decreases. For example, the animal kingdom includes all animals from insects to tigers. The phylum Chordata includes all animals that have some type of nerve cord. The class Mammalia includes animals with the vertebrae that are warm-blooded, have hair, give birth to live young, and produce milk. The order Primates includes animals with vertebrae that have mammalian traits and have hands and feet with flexible shoulders and hips. The family Hominidae includes the largest animals with opposable thumbs on their hands and feet with mammalian traits and vertebrae. The genus Homo includes vertebrate animals with mammalian characteristics, with hands and feet and opposable thumbs and large brains. Finally, the species sapien specifically means humans. We have all the traits of animals, chordates, mammals, primates, hominids, but we are the unique species Homo sapien. So, Animalia is one of the kingdoms of life. What are the others? Well, there are 6 kingdoms. The simplest is the Archaebacteria and Eubacteria. Moving up in complexity would be the kingdom Protista. Then we have fungi, plantae, and as we already know, Animalia. We will be performing a classification lab later on, and in that lab, we will be using certain characteristics to classify different organisms. Many of these characteristics are vocab terms from earlier in the year. Let's see if you remember them. We will start off with prokaryote and eukaryote. Prokaryotes are mostly single-celled organisms like bacteria. And remember, prokaryotes do not have a nucleus. Pro means no. Eukaryotes are multi-celled organisms like plants and fungus and animals that do have a nucleus. Remember, you do have a nucleus. Heterotroph or autotroph. Heterotrophs have to eat to survive. They cannot make their own food. Animals are heterotrophs. Plants are autotrophs. Autotrophs can produce their own food through the process of photosynthesis. Another characteristic we will use to classify organisms is whether or not they have sense organs. You know your sense organs. Eyes help you see, your nose helps you smell, ears for hearing, a tongue for tasting, and skin for experiencing different feels. Is the organism able to move on its own? If it can, then the organism is motile. A protist has cilia to help it swim, and horses have powerful legs to help them run fast. The last characteristic we will look at is body plan. There are 3 different body plans. Humans have a bilateral body plan. Organisms with a bilateral body plan can be divided into 2 equal parts. If you cut a person right down the sagittal plane, you create identical sides, the left side and the right side. An organism with a radial body plan can be cut into equal sections if dissected from a central point. Think of this like cutting a pizza. Starfish have a radial body plan because equal parts would be created if you cut the starfish in equal pieces from its center. Sea urchin and jellyfish are other common examples of organisms with radial body plans. Finally, organisms can have an asymmetrical body plan. Organisms like amoebas or sponges do not have body symmetry, so no matter how you try to cut or dissect them, you will never get equal pieces. Well, with that, we have reached the end of our discussion on classification. Now be prepared to practice what you learned.